Yo, what's going on YouTube? As you can see by the title, I pretty much had the chance to play with almost every single one of these cards, get a feel for their swing, see how they are in the field, what kind of animations do they get. And so what we're going to do is go through each card. We're going to put them into a tier. So we got S tier, A tier, B tier, and then C tier. We could do a D tier for a couple of the cards because there are some that are like not really worth it. I do recommend getting every single card so that you can get Prince Fielder and so that you can get Shohei Ohtani. But for some of these cards, a lot of these cards will make your lineup. If you're a no money spent player or a budget player and you don't have collections done, or you don't have every card in the game, a good amount of these cards can make your lineup. So we're just going to go through, pick a card, and we're going to put them into a tier. So we're going to start off with the AL East. Cedric Mullins. Honestly, out of all these players, he's got the best swing. I think he has the best swing out of all of these players. I don't know what it is. Lefty, lefty. It doesn't matter that he's 5'8". My boy plays like he's 6'5". He's got heart, but he is nice. He's an A tier card for me because of offense. The problem is he has good speed. He has a great bat. His arm is such a noodle arm. So I personally recommend throwing him over in left field. I don't think I'm starting to notice arm doesn't matter as much as we think, but 51 arm is just too bad to ignore. So he's borderline B tier because of that arm, but to me, he's A tier because of how good that swing is and how good these stats are, and he plays up to it. Next, we have my dude, Rafael Devers. If y'all know me, I love, love, love Rafael Devers. I do think that this card is probably B tier, mainly because his stats against lefties aren't the greatest. What makes him so great is no matter what, this card at the very least be on your bench all year if need be. He isn't a 5-tool player, obviously. He doesn't have the fielding, but at third base, it doesn't necessarily matter. He doesn't necessarily have great speed. So really, you're banging on the bat, and against lefties, it's not the greatest. But I'm on record of saying Rafael Devers' stance and swing allows him to get to inside pitches that a lot of other bats don't get to. So don't let the B tier ranking scare you away. Me personally, Devers is in my on my bench. He probably will be on my bench all year. I think we've only faced one lefty. We're 1-for-1 with the home run. And he can make it happen. Trust me. Don't be scared off of picking up this Devers because his bat is as advertised. Next, we got Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge, just off of his bat and defense alone, should be S tier. The reason he's A tier to me is because first, I'm not the best with tall players because you have to expand your strike zone. So pitches that you normally think are balls are hitting corners on the top, on high and in and high and away. Pitches that you thought were going to be in the dirt are hitting the bottom of the strike zone because of, it's just hard. His strike zone is so much different than everybody else's. It's kind of hard to adjust to. Plus, he has a slower swing. But when he does get a hold of it, he's nasty. I mean, he produces really good exit velos. Don't let the speed fool you. 99 reaction allows this card to get to most baseballs in the outfield. Him on the opposite end of Mullins has an amazing arm. You can play this dude in any position in the outfield. You can put him in left. You can put him in right or center. He'll have diamond defense. I like that. I don't recommend putting him in center because it's just too much ground to cover. But left and right, the corners, perfect. And then on top of that, like I said, against lefties, this dude could be a certified bench bat if you need him be. But against righties, he's still got the power and the contact, decent contact, to do really well. But I do want to let you know that his swing is kind of slower, on the slower end. So I personally got him in A tier. I like this card, but I can see why some people would have him a little lower. Teoscar Hernandez. I love this dude's swing. I promise you, you cannot go wrong with picking this card up. High contact against both sides, 120, 125. So if need be, once again, I have him on my bench. There's a lot of bats in this game that you're going to see that could be bench bats. He has decent fielding. If you keep him in right field, he'll have silver fielding, which is not bad at all. He has 79 arms, so once you kind of parallel him, he'll get into the 80s, which I think is really good. He has 71 reaction, which is kind of eh. You know, he'll get some of those animations. I've noticed he gets some animations where he doesn't necessarily jump straight towards the ball. So there is that. He has really good speed to make up for that reaction. So I personally think Teoscar is high B, low A tier. I love Teoscar Hernandez's swing. He's got that two-hand kind of quick swing. It's like a kind of like a slap swing almost. Some people don't like that. I think it's the perfect height at 6'2". The ball flies off this dude's bat, man. I would highly recommend getting this Teoscar Hernandez card. And lastly, Mike Zunino, BR Goon. This dude is nice. Honestly, once again, could very well put him on the bench with 118, 125. He has 125 against both sides. If you were using Gary Sanchez, I see no reason why not to upgrade to Zunino, because if you were going to hit with Gary Sanchez and he has like 30 something contact against lefties, you should have no problem with that 45 contact. So he has better defense. He's not a burner. Obviously, he's slow, but I think this card is B tier. It's a very, very, very good card. Like I said, if you're using Gary Sanchez and you're good with Gary Sanchez, I see absolutely no reason not to upgrade to this Mike Zunino card. Okay, so next we have the AL Central, and we're going to start off with Jose Ramirez. I felt like they kind of disrespected this card slightly. Not disrespected, because the stats show, they gave him exactly what the stats show. But he's got 80, 103, 125, 73. Switch hitter, amazing swing, can play every infield spot, can play left field and the outfield. 68 speed, so he can get over 70 speed once you start paralleling him. Silver defense, no matter where you play him. I think this card is B tier. He has a great swing. I love Jose Ramirez's swing. One of the better swings in this program, honestly, which is why it's B tier. Stats wise, it's like there's nothing that carries this card. Like 125 against righties, that's amazing power wise, but then the 80 contact, like the splits are just kind of weird on this card to me. You could argue A tier just because of how good his swing is, but I think this Jose Ramirez is personally B tier. Carlos Rondon, basic pitch mix. He has not one pitch that's like, 112 hit per 9. He does have good stamina. He has good break. He has decent control. Like, it's not great. He has high home run per 9. Doesn't really matter. This Carlos Rondon to me is C tier. I don't recommend picking him up just because of how basic the pitch mix is. Maybe you could get away with it against bad players, but it's one of the first players that I don't recommend putting in your lineup. So there's no need to sticking on it too long. I got Rondon and a couple other starting pitchers, honestly, in C tier. Salvi Perez, S tier. He's got the offensive stats. His stat, those 93, 90 plays up. If you've seen anybody use a Salvi Perez card, if you played with the finest Salvi Perez last year, if you use the 42 series Salvi Perez, this card always plays up. He has the defense. The only thing that Salvi is missing is the pop time quirk, so he doesn't get out of his, if somebody steals the base, he isn't able to throw it as fast as some other people. But his bat is legit. His swing is legit. And he does have good enough defense to where you can say that this card is truly S tier. If you're looking for a catcher, I personally would recommend this Salvador Perez card. I guess you could debate A tier, but for me, this is the first card that I've seen that's S tier. Next, we got Nelly Cruz, certified bench bat. He doesn't have nothing else outside of that stats against lefties that really carry him. His stats against righties aren't necessarily good enough to where you could put him out there with that fielding. If he had just this 125 across the board or high contact against righties with that 121 power, maybe you could debate being able to play with that common fielding in right field or left field, but he don't have the speed. He don't have the reaction time. He has a good arm, but this is certified bench bat. Nelly Cruz to me is B tier. If he had just silver fielding, bronze fielding, maybe he would be higher. Maybe he could make a lineup, but I don't see nothing but a bench bat with Nelly Cruz. That's usually what he is, and there's nothing wrong with that. Next, we have Gregory Soto. He has high hit per 9, high K per 9, good velo, good break, great pitch and clutch. Sinker has outlier on it, so it gets up to 100. But for some reason, there's just something off about this card. I love him in BR. I think this is an A tier card. B tier card, but it's only because there's something off about it. I've seen so many people face this Soto and they're crushing him. So I don't know if it's just the generic release or what, or if people are just sitting heavy on the sinker because nothing else really you got to worry about. Every pitch is just kind of close. The sinker and the four seam are basically the same speed. Slider and changeup basically the same speed. Personally, he's still a lefty in the pen that throws hard. I think he's up there in A tier, but you could definitely debate B tier. Next up, we got the AL West. I'm gonna start going a little quicker with this. We got Matt Olson, A tier to me. He has a S tier swing, high contact, great fielding at first base. You could debate S tier for Matt Olson. It's not much this guy is missing. You parallel him, he'll have 100 contact versus lefties. He'll have really, really good contact against righties. He has the power. He has the defense. Honestly, personally, I'm putting him in S tier, actually, and we're just going to switch that. I think Matt Olson is an S tier first baseman. I think because of all the first basemen that have been released, maybe I lowered him just a little bit. This guy is amazing. His swing plays up above that contact. Like, get you a Matt Olson, I promise you. This card is nice. Adolis Garcia, he has the contact. He has the power. He has decent fielding. He has good speed. I think this is a high B tier, low A tier card. His swing plays up. The ball flies off his bat. If you're looking for like a Ronald Acuna type player with less arm strength, this is probably that player right here. You could debate A tier with how good his offensive stats are. He's probably right there with Cedric Mullins. I just like Cedric Mullins' swing a lot better. So that's probably why the ranking changes a little bit for me between the two. But there's nothing wrong with this Adolis Garcia, man. Like I said, high B tier, low A tier for me, personally. Let me know in the comment section what you think about some of these cards that most people aren't really talking about. Jared Walsh, certified bench bat. Maybe the best bench bat in the whole program. 125, 120, so parallel 5, we're looking at 125, 125. I think this card is B tier. You could put him at first base once you parallel him. He does get silver fielding, so he does have the power against lefties. You could debate A tier with how good his swing is, but I think because he's just a bench bat, I got him in B tier, but I could see why some people have him in A tier. And if you're up by 6 runs, you can actually pinch hit with this Jared Walsh and leave him in the game, and he actually has pitching stats as well. As you can see, he has relief pitcher secondary. Michael Brantley, this card is always kind of for me. He has a good swing. He has good contact, decent pop. He has gold fielding, weak arm, right there with Cedric Mullins, low speed. I think this card is borderline C tier, probably B tier because of how good the swing is. The ball just never seems to fly off the bat for me when it comes to this card. So, and like I said, the arm is kind of like Cedric Mullins, but I love Cedric Mullins' swing way more than Brantley. Plus, Seti has more speed. YUSEI Kikuchi, good hit per 9, great stamina. I thought this card had a sinker. I thought wrong, obviously. It's just not good enough to make a rotation. I hate to say it because I had high hopes for this card. I think this card is C tier. I wouldn't recommend picking him up. Next, we have Jacob DeGrom, S tier. No need to debate this. Like, we're not even going to talk about this one too long. He's got high hit per 9, high stamina, high K per 9, high everything across the board. He has hitting stats. Like, we don't got to stick on this DeGrom. He's got outlier. You can almost use the outlier fastball and slider almost just as well as you could use sinker cutter. It's not as good, but on DeGrom, this card is disgusting. Don't let anybody deter you away from this DeGrom. I promise you, you pitch with him right, he can hit. Pick up Jacob DeGrom. He might be the first pickup. This card is S tier. TREA TURNER, S tier. This card is crazy. I would put him at second possibly because once you parallel him up 2 more, he'll still have silver fielding. He doesn't have the best arm, but 99 speed, 99 stealing, high contact, great power, all around card, S tier. S tier, S tier. Great swing, man. I'm telling you, pick up TREA TURNER. Ozzie Albies is A tier. His swing is S tier. I love this Ozzie Albies card. Honestly, I'll probably put him in my lineup because I'm a Braves fan. At the very least, this card's a bench bat, but because of his swing, it plays up. He has good defense. He has good speed. I think this card is A tier. It could be me being a little biased. I could see why some people would argue B tier, but I'm telling you, S tier swing with A tier stats. I'm going A tier for Ozzie Albies. JT REALMUTO. Now, this card is tricky. To me, this card was A tier, possibly B tier. I thought he was a little lower than the Salvi card all around. He does have the pop quirk. He has 98 arm. Great speed from the catcher. Will be the fastest catcher in the game. He has good contact and power against righties, decent contact, low power against lefties. This card is probably B tier, but don't worry about it because if you're a big fan, they released the All-Star version of him, the All-Star game version of him. That card is S tier. Go pick up that card if you want to use JT Realmuto. Trevor Rogers, not sticking on this one, not going through the stats. F tier. Which sucks because I actually really like Trevor Rogers in real life. He's a strikeout pitcher, but he has the basic pitch mix and nothing else matters at that point. NL East is probably the first division that I would say go do because there's 4 legit players that you could be using. 3 really, really good ones, but and 2 S tier players for sure. So next we have the AL Central. Honestly, this is my favorite division personally because 3 of these players right here could easily make your lineup. All 3 of these, I really don't have to go through, but I will personally. S tier, all 3 of these players right here. Craig Kimbrel, I know a lot of people say he's the worst one, that he's probably C tier. I'm going to go high C tier, low B tier. I don't think he's the worst player. Against bad players, he probably will do decent. 125 hit per 9. That's always good on a reliever. If you don't have good relievers to this point, you're still rocking some gold relievers, not named Diekman or Chapman, you could pick up this Craig Kimbrel and he won't be terrible for you. But if you're playing somebody good, he is very easy to hit because he only has 4-seam, 2-seam knuckle curve. Now, if this card had his changeup that Boston Red Sox card had from Team Affinity 2, he would be way higher. But for this, I go C tier, but it could debate B tier. Like, it's not terrible. Josh Hader, 125, 125. He has the 4-seam slider changed. No sinker cutter. He's still S tier to me. Casties, S tier. If you don't have any of those other first basemen that dropped, you could easily use this card at first base or third base. 125, 124, 99, 111. He has a great swing. He actually doesn't have bad speed. I love this Castellanos card. I say S tier. ALEX Reyes is probably my favorite Team Affinity card personally. He has the outlier sinker. I just love ALEX Reyes cards. He has high stamina, 125 hit per 9. The control doesn't seem to bother me as much with this card. I love ALEX Reyes. Honestly, he'd be one of the first ones I picked up. Like, S tier. S tier for ALEX Reyes. Adam Frazier doesn't have a bad swing. He has diamond defense, can play anywhere in the field. 125, 111. He's not bad against lefties power-wise. 54 power against righties isn't ideal, but I think this card is B tier. I know most people will probably put him C tier, but with the positional versatility, a good swing, diamond defense, and then high contact, I'd go B tier. And then lastly, Kevin Gausman. I want to say C tier. I don't really think there's any starter besides DeGrom that's worth it, but he does have high hit per 9, which is always good. He has good stamina and control. He just has the basic pitch mix, and I don't think he has a great release to where like it's glitchy enough to where you could get away with that. I'll go B tier, but honestly, this card was borderline C tier to me. Jake Cronenworth, good speed, good defense, positional versatility. He's another player that if you're up by 6, you honestly could put him into pitch and he'll do well enough for you. Save your bullpen, good contact, great power against righty, decent power against lefty, and a really, really good swing. I think this card is probably borderline A tier. I'm going to go B tier, but you could argue A tier with how good this guy is all around. He's a really, really all-around player. Eduardo Escobar. I think B tier. I think a lot of people love his swing. He is a switch hitter. Positional versatility, decent speed, decent defense. Once you parallel him, well, he'll only get gold fielding at third base. Everywhere else, he'll get silver fielding. Good arm, decent contact, great power. When I played with him, I thought there was something missing with him. I don't know. I like higher contact and higher power personally. I think this card is borderline A tier. Once again, just like the Cronenworth, probably B tier for me. Chris Taylor, another one of those positional versatile guys. The only difference between him and Escobar is he gets gold fielding everywhere, and at parallel 3, he gets diamond fielding in center field. He has decent speed, he has a good arm, great against lefties, decent against righties. I think this Chris Taylor is, I want to say A tier. I rank him above Cronenworth and Escobar. I personally like Chris Taylor's swing. Now you got to remember, this is my personal ranking based off what I've played with. I do like the Chris Taylor card a little more than those 2 cards, but I can see why you would put those other 2s over him. And you could put in the comment section your thoughts on what you think of these players who you play with, and maybe give me some cards that maybe I put lower that you really like. Marquez against bad players will be good. I guess you could say that about with most pitchers. I think this card is B tier only because he has a sinker. He's probably the second best starting pitcher only because he has that sinker. He has good hit per 9. Good velo, good break. He has good control, like decent control. If you were to need a second pitcher out of this program and you're lacking on starters, which you shouldn't be, but if you are, I'd pick up Herman after DeGrom. I think this card is B tier. You could argue A tier if you really like him. I got him in B tier. So that's going to be all for the rankings video. As you can see, I have every card 100%. I've used every single one of these cards. I feel decent about my rankings of each card. But put down in the comment section your favorite card, your least favorite card, the most underrated card, and who you believe is the most overrated card out of this TA program. And put in the comment section, what did you get from your packs? So if you liked the video, be sure to hit that like button, hit that sub button, and turn on the noti bell down below. And of course, as always, peace, love, till next time.